drops. And Jason, G7OCD after Bernie right at the end there. So, what's been going on? Not a lot. We're preparing for a BATC committee meeting, starting to think about CQTV 270 and what the content's going to be in that. I've already started writing articles. On the radio side, been a bit quiet here. Been doing some redecoration in our kitchen, so that's kept me fairly busy. So with that, I will pass it straight round to Noel, G8GTZ to take it, while I type out a list of the order from G8GKQ and the BATC Net.
Right, presume it's working. Evening all. Yeah. So there we go. It's working. So what's been happening here? I always say not a lot, and then remember that perhaps there has been. Put the camera down a touch, but not a lot. Couple of points. Not sure everybody reads the forum, so I'll say it here. We're looking for some keen developer who could potentially develop the web control interface for them on the Raspberry Pi. All the bits are there, and the support's there, but all it needs is just somebody keen and able to do it. So that would be really useful if it's something you guys, if somebody could do that hasn't read the forum post. So have a look on the forum if that's something you're half capable of doing and interested. When did the grumpy old man mode in on the forum? Please try and search before you ask questions. I think I see Dave answering a lot of stuff that really has been answered before. So, and I guess the only thing I have been doing, and I'll give you a quick glimpse and then talk about it next time round. This is aimed at two people. They know who they are. So I'll just show this. Yeah, sorry, Jim. I'll turn it up next time. So I'll show this and then I'll cut carrier and talk about it next time. So that's it on this over, and I'll pass it round to Mr. 30 Hertz G0MJW to take.
Right, 30 Hertz being the operative number. Just myself. Right, not really set up. Good evening, everyone. Going to be a very, very short over this time. Might be a bit longer next time. In fact, I might change venue upstairs rather than downstairs. But I thought I'd come on the reliable system rather than try the one that might not be very reliable with the new graphics card, etc. Been giving me some issues with crashing occasionally. So I thought I would go back to the old machine for the moment anyway. Not much to say. I've been away for a while. That's why I wasn't on last week. So I'm back now. But I might need to go away again, so we'll wait and see. But I've been busy when I was away, like Winter Hill was designed when I was on Winter Hill over the August period. We designed something else, which I almost got right, and then Noel ordered some PCs, which were almost right, but managed to order some more PCs, which hopefully PCBs, which are maybe right, which may turn up or may not in a relatively short amount of time, and that will be quite interesting and exciting. But I'll leave it to Noel or Dave to tell you all about that. Assuming you didn't talk all about it at the last in the last net, of course. So evening, everyone, and have a good net. Now, who's next? NTG's after me. So Jim, you can explain why those capacitors work for you but not for me. Maybe it's got something to do with my power meter being accurate, I don't know. Or more accurate than W6PQLs, but there's no way I can get the power he gets. G0MJW.
Right, just make sure we're working. Okay, turn my mute on. Okay, thanks, Mike. I'm completely at a loss with the capacitors. You'll have to send me an email or something and tell me what they are. I don't know what. I'm not sure what you mean. Probably I've sent some to the wrong address. Okay, I've been working on a few things. Been building another Ryde and doing a few jobs on it. Might be of interest to somebody else looking at building one. So I've done some very bad camera work here. I'm going to swing it round. Very shaky camera work. And this is the Ryde receiver I'm building. There is no Raspberry Pi in it at this stage, but I'm using the power supply that's in the actual original set-top box. And if you look at the end of my finger, you'll see I've fitted a trimmer. That's to adjust the 5 volts. And I found the position, which one to put the trimmer in, by actually strapping a 10k resistor across various resistors near the output until I found one that varied it, and replaced it with a trimmer, and lo and behold I can set it to 5.2 volts. The rest of it's fairly standard. I've got network input behind the little flap, and I've fitted a plastic panel over the back to hide all the nasty holes, and extended the mini-tune input sockets with BNC, which gives me enough space to get all the wiring in at the back for the power supply, etc. So using the original board for the infrared sensor. It's not very good camera work, many apologies, and I'm going to tap into those. So that's that, and now it's decided to freeze. The other job I've been doing is these ludicrous power linear amplifiers, which are very linear. You've probably seen these in various reports of mine on the Facebook pages and things like that. It is a beast. If I bypass both circulators, that one, and take the output before it gets to this one by cutting the connections off, and supplying power to the corner 6 pins. You can see I've isolated and chopped off all the earth ones, and then I solder a bit of 4mm squared copper cable in there. Then I feed the input to a mister socket. I supply 32 volts to it from a very big power supply, and at 2.3 gigs I get 500 watts, and at 2.4 gigs I get 300 watts, which is plenty for the satellite. So and the small circulator, you probably can't see it, it's probably far too small to see, and it freezes up, but I've left it in place and just wrapped a piece of very small semi-rigid round it to bypass, and used the circulator as the ground plane and soldered the semi-rigid to that. So there you go. People have been asking me what I've been doing with those and how to modify them, and it's extremely simple. It's a fantastically easy job. Just needs a very big heat sink and a big fan and a monster power supply, and they're a beast of an amplifier. So fantastic. I'm chuffed with those. So anyway, I think it's pass it on to John now. So without further ado, I shall say G7 JTT. This is G7 NTG now, handing it to you.
Alright, let's just make sure I've got some audio. Right, why have I got my video? Come on. Right, there we go. Right, okay. I have audio. Right, good evening all. Tired. Christmas. more bedazzled I shall look, and I'll probably end up missing a few as well when we get there. Right, obviously radio wise next to nothing. That was very neat, by the way, Noel. Mine hasn't turned up yet. I'm guessing it'll be in the next day or so. I know Bernie sent it, but with the way things are at the moment, it may take a few days longer than usual. The local mail centre that I'm attached to, we hit record amounts of parcels. Was it last? No, but anyway, whatever. And locally, we reckon we're about 130% up from what we had at the peak of. It's keeping me employed, but I think it's slowly killing me off. So anyway, that was that. Haven't really done anything radio wise other than I've been playing with well, looking at Jim's Pluto. It looks as if, unfortunately, it's been bricked. I've managed to reflash it to the point now that when you plug it in, it goes from the very dim lit LED 1, and then eventually a few seconds later the main LED comes on underneath ready, which suggests it's ready. But for some reason my Windows PC just will not see it, so I'm not quite sure that it's flashed correctly. So I shall have another go in a minute and just see if I can do it again. But yeah, it's a shame because I'm sure it's physically fine. It's just a case of getting the flashing right. But that even with that, actually, it didn't quite work as well as it suggests. The batch file that you download from the Anal Devices page doesn't seem to work with the Mark II. it looks for the device ID. It's the right ID and everything. I can, when I put it into DFU mode, key it in on Windows and everything. And when you flash it, everything goes across and says it's gone fine. So I actually flashed. I've closed the page down now, but flashed the firmware, the boot, and the other one. There was 3 of them. I can't remember what it's called now. Where is it? Yeah, so you got the boot, the U-boot, on there. Every one of them went on and said it's fine. God bless Windows, it just won't see it. So that may be something else that I've got to look into. So apart from that, not a lot really. And with that, I guess it goes round to there's usually too many Johns in the group. That's the issue. But anyway, so round to you, James, and hopefully you enjoyed your walk today. G0DQH G7JTT.
Yeah, just check and see if I've got audio. Yep, good. Okay. Yeah, good evening everyone from DQH. Yeah, the walk was okay, John, but pretty cold. For those who didn't quite pick up on that, Mo and I went to the New Forest today. We decided I'd have a day off from work and go to Acresdown and have a walk through the forest. And I have to say that it was pretty darn cold. So I've got a couple of slides. I've taken pictures today. So this is Mo. The track is actually quite good to walk on, and it goes for a couple of miles. I think we did about 3 miles today. On the next one, which let's scroll down to. Looks very autumny now, wintry. But at least it wasn't raining today. It was cold but dry. And last but not least, the third pick. That was taken on the way back to the car. So we drive about got to be 15 miles just to go to the forest. So, but it was an interesting day. We stopped down and had a small picnic, and then made our way back. I'm glad you're having a go at that, Pluto, John, because I think I might have mucked it completely up. So at least the experts got it now. Okay, that's all from me. I can go back to my course, my slide and course sign. Okay, next one on the list is G8HKM.
Right, testing the audio. Leave this on for a little while so everybody can manually adjust their auto PIDs. Right.
viewers. I'm speaking to you this evening from the BBC Research Department. And with me now is the Chief Researcher, Mr. Frederick Scuttle.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, Mr. Scuttle.
Good evening, viewers.
Now, Mr. Scuttle, we've heard a great deal about audience measurement.
Yes.
Would you like to estimate exactly how many people you think are watching this show now?
We estimate, sir, 59 million, sir.
But the entire population's only 50 million.
Some watch more than others.
Okay, in the words of Fred Scuttle, good evening, viewers. Not much to report this week. I'm not really a constructor, I'm more of a person that puts things together, so I haven't been doing much. I've got a copy of the Test Card Circle magazine, latest issue. It has an article about Winter Hill, but it's the transmitter, and they are trying to track down some of these slides. This is one of the slides, and there's another one inside they're trying to identify, which is that one. If anybody worked for the ITA at Winter Hill in the 60s and knows anything about those slides. Right, I've got a little slideshow of this station setup here. If I can click on the right buttons. It's in a loop, so I'll play it about 3 times and then I'll come back on the camera if everything works. It's going to start right in the middle of the loop, so here we go. I think probably twice around is enough actually. You may have all fallen asleep by now. I'll wait till I get to the end and then I'll come back to the camera. You're getting a lot of advertising, Jim. Okay, back round to me. I think that's enough. Right, let me find the test card. Okay, next on the list is Nick, G4NKV. I'll put the test card up, and when I get cut carrier, it's going to be over to you, Nick.
Oh, it looks like we're on. Well, hello there to another net on another Thursday. Been having some problems here, and they seem to be internet based. If anyone's noticed on forums, you'll see I've had some issues with Ryde receiver I've just built. Seems to have all come down to a corrupted install caused possibly, I suspect, by the 3 network I'm using. I'm using the 3G network, and when I switched that off and went back to TalkTalk, I seem to have got the Ryde working again. Little issue with the handset at the moment, with the remote. Some controls don't work, and it is one that's listed in the wiki, the Samsung one. I did originally buy a phone, and when it didn't work I thought, oh, it's faulty, so I went and bought a genuine Samsung one and still had the same problem, so I'm now going to try and go through the procedure and set it up myself. But I'll have to read that through and get the hang of how I navigate in the file system there and do the editing. So I've got that to do. I did test my transmitter earlier today, about 5ish, and it was working fine. But like last week, as soon as I come onto net and I pressed transmitter, the port stand hung up. It just froze, and I had to do the shutdown and reboot it again. It's funny how it always happens when it's the most important time when you want it to get working, so I don't know what's actually caused that. That's something to be sorted out. I've not yet managed to get the amplifier, my big one, outside working. It's been too bad weather when I've wanted to go out and get it all connected in. It's out there in its so-called box, which obviously isn't because it's letting rain in. Hopefully get it going soon. I think I'm pushing this little amplifier a bit at the moment, and I've noticed the temperature is, I'm just looking at it now, it's going up quite fast, and it was only about 2.5 degrees when I started. The temperature is rising, so I don't know how long it'll hold out. The other one's in a big case, so I've got that to sort out. But I don't know what's with this internet. Even the chat page is slowing down now. I'm on the talk, and just about when the net was just about to start, the 3G network from 3 hung up totally. Absolutely could not get anywhere. So I'm pretty certain that has been a lot of my problems there. It's annoying. It's one of those things we have to live with here in the sticks. We're a long way from the exchange, and I suppose we're lucky to get any signal at all, any broadband at all. Anyway, I'll pass it over. It's G4HJW.
Okay, sorry about that. I'd not switched the vMix on right, so let me just come over to me. Good evening all, and it's very cold in here tonight, hence the as close a Michelin Man jacket as I've got, and I've been out here most of the night as well, so that explains that one. Okay, on the optical Noel, I knew that's what it was. Well, I didn't know what the picture was going to be, but I guessed you meant John and myself. And okay, on the email, for everybody else, I got an email from Noel which I probably misunderstood. It was saying this is on the optical, and how the little transceiver that I've supplied, which is in an aluminium tube, which I don't think I've got here. No. Fitted, and wouldn't it be good, fitted to the back of the box, which is what we do. And I thought you'd have realised that, Noel, and on the 100mm glass lens one, which I don't use these days, but that's what I meant about the wing nut, so that when you find the focus, get that right, then you can tighten up on there. But you must have guessed that, so I maybe misunderstood what you meant. And that's the which I showed last week. That's the same thing for the Fresnel lens one. So it'll be interesting to see how you get on. The parcel to Noel went fairly quick, so I was surprised you said about the potential delays. It was all sent second class, as I always do, so we'll hear next week if you've got on with any of that, although I know you said, John, you're busy at the moment and you wouldn't get on to things. Now, I did have an interesting email from Ian, G3KKD, who is almost my nearest amateur, only about a mile away. He'd been watching last week, and when I moved around, which I think I was showing the light box, the picture had froze. I think that's what he meant with him, and I thought, well, I haven't seen that here. So I looked, I set everything up in the afternoon, and on my downlink, which is using the mini-tune, I don't get that. But Ian had emailed Dave there, who correctly guessed that what I was using on transmit, the ATV Express, and reckoned that it might be that was freezing, but I'm not getting it to freeze here, so I assume, you know, this is all new to me, I assume it's combinations of receive or transmit and receive software that can do strange things. What I do get here from a couple of people is audio dropping out, which is in and out all the time, which you don't get on the streamer. So I don't know why, I really don't know why that is either. So those are my two things. It was interesting when the beacon went off for, not repair exactly, but to be looked at. I happened to be looking at the MER in here, just to see what it was, make sure everything was working okay, and of course everything went off, and I inevitably assumed the problem was this end, so I went inside, and it was quicker to go inside and put PC and go on to Goon Hilly's there, and I saw it had gone off, so just one of those strange things that happened to be out. Now on receive, I normally only get about 8 dB MER on the beacon, and I was going to do some more antenna adjustment because I've got a 1.2 metre dish, but I'd ordered a standby LNB, which I think is probably phase lock loop, but it didn't advertise that, and I thought, well, try that first. It was a very cheap thing, £6, and that's, in comes the cat, and it's immediately gone up to 10 dB, so that saved me a bit of work on the antenna, I think. The LNBs I was using were the ones I've mentioned before, these Chinese ones. I don't know if that'll come out. they were £2, so I was right, lost 2 dB, but I don't think it's the sensitivity, I think it's just the beam width of the antenna. Right, that'll do for me, I think, for the moment. It goes on to you, Jason. Nice to jumping ahead and seeing you. Nice to say good to see you again. It's been a while since I've been down to the Ipswich do on a Saturday. So I know the call sign, Jason, really. G70CD, and the net G4HJW.
Right, I'm going to take these off. Good evening to all on the BATC Net. Nice to see everyone. Yes, I haven't seen you for quite a while there, Bernie. I did point out on the local mailing list that I didn't think that we'd be having our usual Saturday breakfasts before Christmas. There was outrage at that suggestion, but it turns out I was probably right. What's been going on here? Well, hopefully there's no complaints on the chat box. So sounds like I've got it working this week. I've been starting to work on my Jetson Nano to try and bring H.265 to the shack. But my input source isn't compatible with the sort of off-the-shelf firmware, so I've been playing around with new G-Streamer pipelines, and I think I'm just about there, so hopefully going to try that maybe over the weekend. I've also been doing a fair bit of work on the successor to FunCube, so designing a more powerful onboard computer for our next mission. That photo, the still shot that I put up before I switched to the camera, that was taken when I went out for a stroll this evening. Took a panoramic down at the Felixstowe seafront, went out for an hour's walk, and caught it just right. It's been a good mixture of a day. We had a rainbow this morning, a double rainbow, which went a full arc, which my daughter was particularly pleased with. I'll leave you with a photo of how I attached my patch feed to my dish, because the end-type connector didn't work with the standard mounting clamp, so I printed one up. So after a break, it's G4XAT from G70CD in the BATC group.
Oh, that looks a bit loud. Good. Mute that. Okay, well, good to see you on, Gareth. Really pleased you managed to get things sorted, and pleased that the Portstone is working with the Pluto for you there. Right, what do we got going down the list? Good to see you going up in the bands, Noel. I'll look for the red lights coming from the northeast here. Mike, yeah, we're starting to talk about the an experimental DVB-T receiver is what Mike is working on, sort of a DVB-T version of Minituner. But we've got probably a year's worth of work before we get anywhere with that to the stage where Minituner is, I think. Jim, yeah, PA work is very impressive, but I think people, once you get the hang of it, it's easy and the confidence, but it's quite scary stuff, in my view. I'll stick to lower powers. Roger, the test card circle, I didn't realise such a thing still existed. But I have been researching a few test cards, as will come out in the next CQTV. I think perhaps we also need to be a bit careful about copyright. I'm not sure what the situation is with that clip you played. Somebody commented that Nick's power wasn't very good. He was 1 dB below the beacon, which is the recommended power level. I mean, I'm at the same level as the beacon, which is over the recommended power level, but Nick was right. I know Gareth's power was a little low, but it was D1 here. Pleased if you got the Pluto working, John. Sorry I gave you Duff Gin on that, but hopefully it pointed you roughly the right direction. Bernie, yeah, your video does freeze occasionally on both Minitune and the Ryde. It's worse on the Ryde, actually. The first thing I've seen that has been worse on the Ryde, but the main problem is the FFmpeg encoder that Charles put in the DATV Express software. It could do with an overhaul, I think. In the shack here, I've sent out in the last 2 weeks 20 Ryde SD cards, so things have been busy on that front. Building cards, I very rarely have a failure, and perhaps you might do better, Nick, building your card on your slow broadband. I know it will take a long time, but it will probably be more reliable than going for 3 or TalkTalk if you do have slow broadband. One of the issues I've found on one of my Ryde receivers is the HDMI causes a lot of RF interference, the tuner input. I have the tuner input so almost right next to the HDMI, and there's a lot of crosstalk there. So if you're getting funny results with a Ryde, have a think about moving the HDMI lead around. I like the design of your Ryde there, Jim, G7NTG. The one thing to watch for, those F to BNC adapters, I've had problems with those in that they don't clamp the BNC, some models don't clamp the BNC centre pin very well. And I don't know if people remember, about a year ago we had all sorts of instability problems down at Goonhilly with the web SDR. That was caused by one of those F to BNC adapters, a cheap eBay one, that didn't clamp the centre pin of the BNC, so there was an intermittent connection there. So that's one thing to watch for. Okay, that's probably far too much from me. Let's put it round to Noel again. G8GTZ, time to flurry around the shack and turn things on and show us all the optical stuff. G8GKQ.
Right, GTZ. I've put a bit more coal on the fire because I was starting to look a bit low, but perhaps I've overdone it. But anyway, there we go. Yes, okay. Couple of comments. Yeah, John, postie wise, yeah, BATC parcels generally are getting a few more complaints about delay, and I know Dave had 4 Ryde cards, which I think the guy must have dropped it behind the driver's seat of the van because they were about a week in getting there. So yeah. Anyway, I wish you well and hope it doesn't kill you too much. And yes, Ryde PCBs, I posted on the forum we were expecting them about nowish, but unfortunately for some reason or other PCB ways seem to have taken a bit longer than normal, and I just had a text from DHL today saying they're going to be delivered on Tuesday. So Ryde PCBs, the GPIO and the button PCBs will be back in the shop on certainly by Wednesday, maybe Tuesday. We ordered 100, and I wonder if that's why PCB Way were a bit slower, because normally we only order smaller quantities, sort of 20, 30, which they can fit in between their main production, but they've certainly been a little bit longer on this. And yeah, as Mike alluded to, and yeah, agree, Tim, that's why I ordered 100. And Mike, as Mike alluded to, we're working on a PCB for another project, which, as Dave said, could take some time to fruition, but is looking at an OFDM tuner which is programmable in bandwidth, which is really interesting, but it's a long-term project, but very, very timely. You may have seen me post on the forum that there is now a I think it's 200 kilohertz and a 500 kilohertz slot in 50 megs officially in the IARU Region 1 band plan. So be very interesting to see what we can do with that, because ZS of course is in Region 1. And if you're very observant and have a look at the Spectrum forum meeting minutes of the meeting that took place a couple of weeks ago, you'll see that Murray, Spectrum manager, implied that some experiments on 29 megs could be interesting. So only problem is the aerials just keep getting bigger and bigger. Anyway, from one extreme to the other. Yes, you're right, Bernie. You misunderstood my email. I totally understood about the telescopes. And what I was asking you was, has anybody tried this before? And the answer is obviously yes, because you produced one. You showed us one. But what this is a light box with a Fittingly transceiver poking in the back. So this is so this is a Fittingly microwave transceiver in a I think it's 1.5" aerial tubing. That's to transmit and receive on I don't know what frequency actually, but that's a red LED in the front there. And Bernie sells these for £20 each, which is amazing value. But you can also buy some QRO devices, which are these. They're called flat LEDs or flat lights, right there, and that's a red 10-watt LED chip on a board, and that comes with this lens and fits in there like somehow like that. and then they're actually off video projectors, big video projectors, and that's the red device. You can just about see the lead in the background. So they're about watts, whereas the Finningley devices are, I think. What I've done here is this is the Fresnel lens, £3.50 off eBay. Bit of chipboard I happen to have in the garage. And the question I was asking Bernie was whether this would work. So that's a tube, and the Finningley transceiver goes in there and focuses out through, and you adjust this to get your focal right, and there's a Jubilee clip to stop the drip and focus up. And so that he's, whilst this is a transceiver in its own right, obviously, as Jim will tell you, QRO is important. And so what I'm wondering is, I've got to now work out how I can get the QRO LED on its mount and a heatsink. It definitely needs a heatsink, but if I can get that on the end of this tube, I can then replace the receive and put the transmit tube in and still have all the optics lined up. So that's the plan. Anyway, enough from me. Lots of people on the net, so that's it. Right, good to meet you all tonight, and see you again next week, I suppose. 8GTZ.
Okay, give that time to lock up. Taking a bit of time. So, right. Not much else to add, but some really interesting been going on the net. So that was great. You just tune that in. Just showing you the various images that are currently being transmitted and received on the satellite. Hopefully you can see me, and hopefully I've got some audio. But trying to listen to 4 audio streams at the same time, I discovered, is not a good idea. So they're all muted, which is why you can't hear anything. Anyway, yes, Noel mentioned the thing that we were talking about, and the various PCBs that are in development. So leak preview of this secret device, which is basically a mini tuner, but it's slightly different. But I think there's going to be a very, very long delay between having the PCBs ready and getting the software, because this is the easy bit. Basically, it was just taking the mini tuner and making a few changes. But the difficult bit is going to be writing the software, I'm sure. So we'll see what happens with that. But there you go. And it's not SMD, it's still through hole for those people who prefer that sort of thing. I was tempted to go SMD, but no, replace maybe this bit here, which is the usual tuner, the usual power supply thing. But that's still the same as before. And everything else is the same, and the fuse holder is the same, but it's not showing up at the moment because I'm looking at this on a different PC. So there you go. That's the proposed board, and unfortunately I made a slight mistake, but that's now been fixed because we have another tuner. This is the tuner, and it's not quite the same as the previous one. It's got a slightly different pin pitch, and I made a slight error. So hopefully we now got it right, and all will be okay. So that's that. That's what I was working on. Not much else really. Just to you can see all of the various things going on the screen here. and the tuning. Right, okay. Is there no audio, Noel? Is that what you were saying with your comment, or is the audio too low? If it's too low, I can probably boost it, but now is not the time. So 7-3 everyone. Nice to see everyone on the chat. Jim, I'll talk to you about those capacitors that you suggested a couple of weeks ago that I put, or maybe it was a month ago, I put in series to replace the chip caps on the input of those XRF286 amplifiers. They don't seem to make a very big difference, so a bit puzzled by that. So maybe you've got a better solution, I don't know, but they should have worked. They do make a bit of a difference to the gain, but I still can't get the 150 watts out. I can get about 120 absolute maximum saturated, and that's a bit lower than I expected. Although it's not too bad, it's not nothing to be sniffed at. So, right, with that, let's put up the test card and say 7 threes to everybody, and catch you next week. G0MJW.
Yep, okay. Well, that came up quickly on my ride. It came up instantly. I'll turn this volume down. Yeah, okay, Mike. I'm not sure what's causing that with those capacitors. There's something strange going on there that I'm not sure about. Perhaps you ought to send me a photograph of how you've made it and see if I can approach it that way and see if I can see anything obvious. You never know. Right. Dave, yeah, there's the scary power. It is scary power. You have to be very careful running it at such high power levels. Be very careful with your eyes and keep the lid on the machine while you're testing it as much as possible. Luckily, they don't need any tuning, so I haven't bothered anyway. Excuse me. And okay, with the BNC adapter, I will have a look at that. I'll check them carefully. Right, Roger, thank you for the advert for the amplifier. That's always much appreciated. That's a very good advert, so thank you. On to Bernie. Yes, your audio was lovely, but I agree with what others have said, that the video does break up when you move around a lot, same as mine does. If I start moving too quickly, then it well, that's proved me wrong, isn't it? If I move too quickly, then it can break up the signal. Oh well. And I have some spare Ryde boards, the GPIO and push button board I won't use. I don't need them, so anybody, if they want them, they can just email me and I'll post them to you. I don't want anything for them, you can have them for nothing. Just give me your just email me. You can get me on qrz.com, my email's on that. So right, I won't hold it too long. I'm going to pass it round to John. And I'll say 73s to all, because I won't be back on again. And so G7JTT from G7NTG with a quite big group tonight.
That once, yes, audio. At the moment, yeah, that sort of thing where you've been telling you, I'm usually in bed. It's going to be it is actually a long day tomorrow as well. Right. BX, I'm hoping like Benno, possibly. Anyway, thank you very much indeed. Absolutely. With regards to what you Those are the instructions spot on, but what have I done? The back run doesn't work. So I don't know if this thing or what. I don't know. But anyway, it does not work. So what I did was scroll down the page, and when you look for the Linux instructions, command lines to run. So, for example, you've got sudo. Well, you don't need that in Windows. I type dfu minus D, capital D, Pluto dfu. I'm putting the wrong bits in, but anyway, it's working absolutely fine. I'm sure Jim will be breathing a bash it with the Brave, and get it back to you hopefully Monday or Tuesday next week. Weekends just don't exist at the moment for me. What was the other thing I wrote on there? I'm sure there was something else. Oh yeah, sorry. Right. Probably shouldn't say this, but I doubt very much many of the Royal Mail are going to suffer. It's my particular office packets are finished. It's Christmas on steroids at the moment. The last November, first week of December. Last week of November, first week of December. It's been getting earlier and earlier every year. This pressure that we've experienced this year, we've never, and I hope never experience again. Since last March, we haven't had a rest. We normally get a summer lull. It hasn't happened. It's just gone mental. And people are suffering, unfortunately. It's unlike a lot of you that got a 6-month break with lockdown and God knows what else, and furloughing and everything. We've been working all the way through, and all we've seen is our workload just to keep increasing. But anyway, that's there. So things will get through. I'm absolutely convinced of it. But it is taking somewhat longer. It's very strange times, very strange times. But on the other side, I mean, I know a lot of you probably know now that I go around collecting COVID kits. So although I work for Royal Mail, I've sort of branched off onto something else. And today I had a kit to go and collect from a property down in Imington, and the lady in there was in her 90s, living on her own. She'd been in lockdown pretty much since March. She'd just come out of hospital a couple of weeks ago, had a minor operation for something, and I spent nearly 40 minutes chatting to her. It was one of the conversations I've had with someone for a very long time. She'd obviously enjoyed the fact that she'd physically seen somebody, and obviously it's all done socially distanced in and a proper PPE and all the rest of it. Nobody was at risk or any of that side of it. But what an amazing woman. Just the story she was telling me in the 40 odd minutes I was chatting to her. Yeah, proper fighter. Very similar to things that my nan done. So my nan got evacuated during the war. She was telling me she got evacuated and how they survived the war and how they're going to survive this. But yeah, real attitude to fighting attitude to say the least. So it's just an amazing woman. And for 90 years old, I would not have said she was much older than probably mid-70s, something like that. And yeah, I couldn't believe just how fit and healthy she was looking. But lockdown was certainly say. Right, with that, I'm probably just gassed. I should put it round to James, and I will no doubt hopefully see the end of the cuff hopefully
Okay, John, thank you very much. Just check that I've got audio, yep, which I have. Excellent. Okay. Yeah, thanks for having a look at that Pluto for me. I too have to be up in the morning. I've got to go to work. I actually look after the other side of BT, the engineers, testers, and we repair and calibrate those. It's a max tester, by the way. Goes all the way up to 1 gigahertz. Lovely machine. Brilliant to work on too. Touch screen and quite an interesting toy to work on. Okay, I'll see you all next week hopefully, and I'll say a very good evening to everyone. From G0DQH in Chandlersford, and we're situated just 5 miles north of the city of Southampton.
Okay, let's hope the audio's come on. Okay. Yep, we're there. Okay, not much from me this time round, so just very quickly, I'd like to thank Phil for his work on the security certificate problem we had this week. It's been a funny old week, first the beacon being off, and then the Spectrum monitor stroke chat going off, and then the streamer playing up as well. Whoops, over modulating. So thanks Phil to sorting that out fairly quickly. Had a lot of trouble with audio on some of the stations today. I've had to reset the graph a few times and press a few buttons on some stations. Other stations have been perfect. John was perfect just now. Jason's picture and sound were brilliant. No problems at all. We've got a mixture of H.265 and H.264, which is causing extra time on the push button to get everything to settle down. Mike, MJW, audio's a bit low as usual, but the lip sync is miles off, absolutely. Other than that, that's about it on my little list. I won't stay on much longer, so I'll put it round to I think it's going round to Nick again. I'll go back to the test card hopefully. Okay, I'm going back to the
Okay, I think we're on. Right, here we are again. A few things I've noticed there. I reported the power low. Thanks, Dave, for saying it's okay. I was wondering if it was going to work okay. If you recall, Dave, I did upgrade to the Portstown 2020 recently, and I've got the Lime DV software installed. As it says on forums, the power is less. Actually, I did some measurements. I'd done a number of carrier measurements out at Portstown with the original Lime, and a while ago, and then I did them again with when I got the Lime DVB on, and I found, I'm just looking at a spreadsheet now, it's between 6 and perhaps at the most 9 dBm less with the DVB firmware update. I don't know if that's the typical one you'd expect, but I measured it from a Lime about 100, and I went down to a Lime gain of 64. That was the range that I need to drive the amplifier, and at the moment I suppose I am driving it a bit hard. I've had to get the Lime gain up to 97 to get out. That's odd. Oh, live tune. Rob's live tune has crashed again. It's not done this before. I'm beginning to wonder if it's doing it because I'm having issues with internet, but it has crashed. I can see I'm getting out anyway. What else was there? No, not much else really. I'll say 73s for now. From up here on the North Yorkshire moors, we are about 4 miles from Robin Hood's Bay on the coast there. We're quite high up. It's very cold outside, and I'm sure if it rains now it'll be snow. Something we haven't had for a while, but it is that cold tonight. It's around 2 degrees outside. So I'll say 73s for you on this net this week. I hope to catch you next week. I think it's over to Bernie.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Yeah, it comes over to me. Just get the headphones off and come over to the camera. I am somewhat confused about this locking up of my picture, because let's have a look. Let me just move around. I'm not seeing it unless you mean very minute freezing. I just haven't seen that, so it's hard to know what to work on. And Dave, I'm using the mini tuner as well, but I'll have another look tomorrow. I don't think it's the PC giving me running out of memory, because I did have that problem right at the start, and I did have to spread the load. So I've got three PCs on the go at the moment, so I can spread out the various functions. So I'll have to keep thinking about that. But I obviously welcome any comments, because I don't know a great deal about software, and I'm really working fairly blind. I'm just entirely analog RF really. So which is useful in itself, but not on TV, where the majority is software. It either works or I'm totally lost generally. Okay, Noel, I've some questions, Noel, really. I'll just look at my notes. See, I think on the flat light you were using that secondary lens, weren't you? Because you will need to bring the beam width down for that Fresnel lens. Although you've so much power though, even if you didn't have that lens, you'd still be putting more out than the Finley Mark II. And I know I'm closer to half a watt than 3/4 on that, but the real advantage of being able to go from receive to transmit and not have to adjust any optics or have a second setup is really useful. So and it gets out fairly well. So on on a good night. So I'm very pleased with it. I'm sure there's something else. Oh yes, I did quickly try. I'm sure I'd done it before, trying to get the flat light to work as a detector. But I was finding, I think there must be a safety diode or a catch diode on the flat light, because I couldn't get any bias across the diode. It was 0.6 of a volt, which was it 0.6 of a volt? Oh yes, 0.6 of a volt. So that would be a diode, wouldn't it? So that really, if that's so, I can't see it when I look at the die. I can't see an extra diode die though, which you can on a Golden Dragon or something like that. So, and I'm sure I tried it before, but the sensitivity would be 40 or 50 dB down, so not a lot of point in continuing that. And I don't know what the answer is, to be honest. If you're going to use the flat light, then you'll have to sort something out for receive. And you definitely will need a heatsink, as you've worked out, because it does get quite warm. And when I did some testing a few years ago, when I was up on the Peak District just near Sheffield, I'd no heat sinking, but it was mounted on a large piece of solid aluminium, the diameter of that plastic tube. So it would work for about 5 minutes. Then I'd have to pull the thing out the tube, pour water over it to cool it off, and then push it back in again. So that wasn't very satisfactory. But I don't do a lot of operating, so I can't really really say a lot. But the Finley Mark II works quite nicely. And you know, as I said last week, with the light box that you had it, without the transceiver in there, and the light box sat on a tripod, as long as you can see the LED at the other end, which certainly if the other person's got a flat light, you will, you can line it up pretty accurately by just putting your eye behind the back there. So I found that quite easy. What else? I think that's about it from me. Obviously with this lockup that I'm getting, I'd like to know more about that, but I don't think on a big group like this it's the right place. But it was good of you to. It was good that you replied to Ian KKD about that, because as I say, I knew nothing about it. Right, I'm beginning to repeat myself, so I'll say good night and pass it on to you, Jason, and I won't go on to the test card. I'll just drop Carrie.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up now. Just like to say thanks to everyone for keeping the evening a bit more interesting. I saw a message there from Tim about using VLC with Minitune, which is what I've reverted to doing because I was having terrible troubles using the codecs that Minitune chooses itself from the Windows portfolio. And VLC just seems to work fine. I don't know if there are any other tuning software that I can use on Windows other than Minitune. It seems to be well featured, but if I'm using it with VLC, it keeps bringing up its own audio and video, so I'm getting everything in double, which is a bit overkill. It also seems to use an awful lot of CPU horsepower, even though it's I've actually forced it not to do any video decoding, so it must just be something to do with the interaction over the USB. Yeah, it's pretty chilly out there. I'm pleased I'm in my very well insulated shack this evening. And I think what I'll do is I'll leave you with just a short bit of footage, just so we can remember what it was like a little bit earlier in the year. And when I drop carrier, it'll be G4XAT from G7OCD in the BATC group.
Okay, G7OCD and the net G8GKQ taking it for the final. Okay, thanks for a really interesting net tonight. Some comments. Yeah, the beacon went off for maintenance. They have done I spoke to the AMSAT DL guys. They have done a firmware upgrade. They're hoping to do a hardware upgrade later after COVID to try and sort out the problems once and for all. But Thomas had been allowed access over the internet to do a firmware upgrade. Yeah, we had some problems with our BATC SSL certificates expiring. Phil had set up a auto renewal script, but something broke those scripts, and so we were down for a few hours. But he did fix it within about 5 minutes of me contacting him, although he's been very busy at work. People having problems, yeah, GKQ equals high, okay. Let's turn that down a bit. That might be a bit better. People having problems with audio and video decoding. High plus, okay. I really need to have a look at the audio level on this and actually come up with a calibrator. I now always use Ryde for routine receiving. It's just so much easier. The main problem is the players and the switching between modes that Minitune use. I do use Minitune as a test receiver for lots of testing because it's got so many parameters, but for general viewing I just use the Ryde, which will cope with DVB S2 or S and any modulation or audio mode without needing to do any switching. Power with Lime DVB is lower, Nick, and that's just because of the way it works inside the Lime. I have a variable attenuator on the output of my Lime, so that I can just switch the power from the front panel. You'll see I can, if I do that, I go up by a dB, you lose me for a microsecond. Do that, I go down by a dB, sort of thing. It's just switched on the front panel. The Samsung remote, I racked my brains for who gave me the codes for the Samsung remote. Well, it was me. I will go and steal it from the TV downstairs and check the codes on it. Bernie freezing pictures. It happens when you change the picture content quickly across a large area of the picture. There is nothing you can do about it while you're using Charles's DATV Express software. That's the way he has employed FFmpeg, and it is not optimized. So you'd need to change configuration to sort it out. And Jason, really nice pictures. Just one. You're on FEC 4/5. We've tried to standardise on 2/3 for the net, which means that people with smaller dishes can still see us. So I think that's about everything covered, but a really interesting discussion. Thanks all for coming on. Please have a think if you can write any articles for CQTV. Have a think, as Noel said, as to whether you could do any web programming to produce a web front end to Portsdown. Quite happy to help with it, but I can't lead on that. Look forward to seeing you next week. G8 GKQ closing the BATC net and leaving the frequency clear for all comers.
Yeah, Roger. GHKNG Yes. Sad that I am. I did Google the Test Card magazine and found the website. Bit 1990s, but interestingly, there's a list. This is very sad. I can't believe I'm saying this. Interestingly, there's a list of trade test colour films. And I'm sure I remember one that isn't on the list, which was a film about two Australian cattle drovers who drive across the outback with a rig and cattle. And there's a famous line there where he drives into this very rural town, and his quote is "rush hour from Malaga or wherever." I can't see it on the list, so I'm most disappointed. And yes, to Bernie, all noted on the optical. Yeah, the idea of the tube is that I think the changeover between transmit and receive should be relatively painless, because when you've got a big amplifier, a QRO, you can't but fail to use it, really, can you? But our initial test will actually be using the filling lead. Right, okay then. Right, GTZ low, I'll give it more next week. Right, 73 is
So G0MJW, I'm just quickly doing, I put the compressor on again. You probably complain I'm too loud now, I don't know, but it's going into the red on the VU meters, but maybe it's too much. Anyway, oh, MJW, excellent, right, well that's what we wanted. So let's just turn it down a little bit. That was 20 dB gain, so clearly that was too much. So we'll drop it back a bit, a few dB, and hopefully it'll now be about right. So that's good. G0MJW. Now going QRT. Over.